Welcome to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41.
The tastiest food show on the Most FM.
Welcome to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. We love to talk about food, garden hospitality, and our beautiful Taranaki, and of course about people who are involved in all of the above. And of course, music. We are on the radio after all. We're recording our show live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Please switch in and share it to your heart content. We are Olina Williams and Warwick Foy, local foodies and the Most FM broadcasters. Our videographers today are Aidan Williams and Nathan Griffith. And our guest today is quite amazing. It's a local foodie and MP Glenn Bennett. Hello, Glenn.
Kia ora koutou. How are you all doing?
Really good. How about we listen to the first song that Glenn had chosen? It is called "There Is No Depression in New Zealand."
Classic.
Did you play that when you came in?
I think I actually did. I now think about it. I was thinking of, and the secret. Did you queue up when?
Yes, we are on air. We are live on social media.
Because the second one I think was Live Factory's Drop, but there is a radio version, which is like 4 minutes long. So otherwise, we're going to be here for like 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting choice. Obviously, it's a New Zealand music that you have chosen, right? Is Face Paddy's Drop New Zealand?
Yeah. Well, they all kind of had like stuff around politics and stuff that's sort of important to me. So.
Okay. So, are you listening to this music, or is it just patriotic thing you do?
That's stuff I listen to. Yeah, stuff that's on my playlist. I went through my Spotify playlist to find, what it was. So.
Oh.
Found the radio version.
Oh yeah.
You are the same as us then. we do this. We both kind of share the playlists, and we have a mutual playlist for Taranaki Foodies, and all the songs are about food. There's a song about cheesecake, about beer, about coffee, about gravy and potatoes, and so many. I think it's about 200 songs in it. Yeah.
Now, another idea is Angela Roberts, who's the Labour List MP in Taranaki. She's in Taranaki. Her husband's Mr. Beer Brewer. He does.
Oh, he knows the deal.
Yes, he does. Do you know Ian? He's a high school teacher at Stratford High.
You know, I've known her for years, but I've never met her. I knew
She brings a little wee chili bin of beer down to Parliament all the time. That's all his.
Like
and it's not home brew, it's craft beer. She's
Craft
like,
beer.
this is
Big difference, isn't it?
the butchery, the Taranaki butchery, I think it is. Yeah.
Send him us our way, because we would like to hear from someone whom we didn't hear from before.
It's like something for
Is he, she was a drama teacher, wasn't she?
drama and economics.
And economics.
And he does tech. He's So he comes from being a furniture maker and then sort of teaches. So he sort of come in and out of it.
Warwick is the president of Society of Beer Advocates.
Being
Not for long.
Warwick, how I'm going to introduce you here? You're going to quit.
I'm not going to. I did a double term because of COVID, and I'm really in got 8 months to go.
Can't wait. Oh, you'll have to organize a new society of some sort.
Everything we do has been cancelled or affected, so I honestly don't have to do much at the moment.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm sure you brew some.
Oh, didn't you?
Something's brewing.
it was a strange time, the sort of events, and I see Christmas in the bowls cancelled and
Yeah, it's sad.
sort of Christmas, all that stuff coming in.
We're at Careers Teachers Conference in Blenheim in 3 weeks, which is our big, between on the venue 400 to 700 delegates. Obviously, we had to cancel it, and now there's a case there. That's vindicated.
Yeah, it's about to finish.
Yeah,
10 seconds.
it's about to take off.
Well, that's why we're doing the mass vaccination focused.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41, the tastiest food show on the Most FM. It is us, Olina Williams, Warwick Foy, and our guest, local foodie and MP Glenn Bennett. Hello, Glenn. So lovely to have you here.
Oh, it's lovely being in the studio and hanging out, and I'm actually feeling a bit hungry. I should have had a snack before I came into the food show, shouldn't I?
You should bring some of your pasta, because the reason you are here, during the lockdown when we were not allowed to be in the radio station, we did a little bit of a promotion in our group page. So people posted their favorite food photographs, their recipes, sometimes their favorite restaurants, shout shout out. So I must admit, I was the person who posted. I posted your pasta photograph, and it was quite authentic because obviously it was, you found a place where to hang it and all the other things. So do you do this type of thing often?
Well, it's the wonderful thing when you have a bit extra time at home is you get to do some slow cooking. And so, no, I don't do it all the time. In fact, I've made pasta probably 3 times in my entire life. But it was something methodical and wonderful about just being able, and I didn't have any of the implements you need. Oh, I had a rolling pin. I didn't have a pasta machine, didn't have a place to hang it. So just improvise. It was really fun because you got to, make the pasta, and then I found some chopsticks and an old chopping board, so I kind of used those as the rack to hang them. And it probably took me 10 times longer to make the food than it took to consume it. But it was the process, which is the main bit.
Isn't it the case all the time? So you won the competition even without knowing that you won the competition. So the prize was participation in our radio show. So here we are. Yeah. So making pasta obviously is just like a carrying material for the sauce. What was the sauce for your homemade pasta?
So I actually made fettuccine. So over lockdown, I made a really nice lasagna one night with fresh pasta that I made, and then secondly made fettuccine. Mm-hmm. So I did a mushroom blue cheese sauce, so a white sauce for the fettuccine. I decided, because we do so much tomato, which is always wonderful, doing a good tomato base. So I decided to, add some mushrooms, had some blue cheese, and it was just, again, it's decadent, something used for a savoury dish. It was decadent, it was delicious, it was rich. Extravagant. And the other thing to realise, I think, with pasta, because so often our good old Kiwi version is, you make your pasta, you kind of drown it in sauce. But there wasn't a huge amount of sauce, but it was just enough to kind of just bring out the whole, I'm just salivating talking about it.
Yes.
I've got a contrast experience in lockdown of making pasta to yours. It seemed to take all day, and then it seemed to take the rest of the day to cook it. Did yours take a long time to cook as well?
No, mine was quick and easy, nice and thin. Get it thin.
Yeah,
I couldn't get it thin. And then it wasn't actually that nice, to be honest. But do you know the story of pasta puttanesca?
I do not. Please tell me.
Educate us for it.
It's a little bit salacious. So somewhere in Italy, some sailors, I may be making parts of this up, entered a restaurant. They were hungry. It was late at night, and they said, "You must feed us." And the chef was like, "Oh God, I've got nothing left." So he went to the fridge, and he put everything that he had left into this dish. So the inference is it's sort of, if I could use the word, listeners, block your ears if you're under 12, of the whore. So that's what it means. That's what pasta puttanesca means. So it's anchovies, tomatoes, black pepper, tapenade, black olives, all kind of blended up, and and a bit of chili. It's delicious. My favourite kind of pasta sauce, but my homemade pasta ruined it.
Wow.
Wow. Maybe you didn't have the same ingredients as this Italian chef. So puttana in Italian means prostitute.
Lady
so
of the night.
yes. So your pasta was probably too proper.
Too proper.
Yeah.
But did you do the experience though, the actual process of preparing the pasta and creating the dish?
I forced my daughter to knead it.
Oh, there's the mistake.
He enjoyed the experience because he forced someone
She
to do
punished
it.
you for that.
So what music do you normally listen when you cook food, Glenn?
Can I be really honest? On a music station, more often than not, I listen to podcasts and catch up on really interesting news and current affairs and stories from the past. So that's often a big part of when I cook. But lately, actually, I've just been kind of dropping back into a bit of, because realising sometimes my days are filled with information, and so getting to the point. So I think at the end of lockdown, actually, when I was making my pasta, actually was just clicking on some soulful music, some Aretha Franklin, some Eva Cassidy, and then I found and apologise if I'm going to have all your listeners switch off, but I found a Billy Graham playlist who was this evangelist in the 20th century. This really world famous evangelist, but it was all the soulful music that and I didn't realise there were all these sort of famous artists that actually sung at his rallies. And so I found this amazing playlist of of Billy Graham, and it was fabulous because it was really soulful. It was old school. It was just, it kind of took you to a different place, and that's.
I think that it is possible in the case of Billy Graham to be an evangelist without being a white supremacist or a fraud or a conspiracy theorist.
Very rare, but possible. Yeah.
He wasn't any of those.
He wasn't at all, exactly.
And I also think he may have come here once.
He did.
He did in the 70s, maybe.
Yeah, I think that was right. Yeah, but
Talking about soulful music and soulful food, what do you think is the soul of food in New Zealand? What would you call the signature food of New Zealand? Hard question.
we don't make pauses on radio. It's always bad to have.
Start singing.
Well, I mean, fish and chips comes to the top of mind as one. I think really we're really simple, like a meat and 3 veg kind of dish.
Very English.
Still very sort of holding on to that kind of English history.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that the signature food of New Zealand is eggs Benedict, because when you go to a restaurant or to a cafe, there is always eggs Benedict in any menu. Plus, they do eggs Benedict sometimes with salmon, sometimes with mushrooms, sometimes with
Spinach. Wilted spinach. My mother hates it.
So. Eggs Benedict exist everywhere, but it's not such a huge place in the menu. Usually, it's kind of only one and somewhere at the back. So I think we should pronounce Eggs Benedict New Zealand signature.
Well, I think the exciting thing is that we've changed so much since I was a kid. When it was definitely meat and 3 veg, and if we went out for a special dinner, it would be Cobb and Co. maybe, or it would be the sort of the really big. And that would be, again, meat and 3 veg or that type of thing. But now it's so diverse, and I don't know if we do have a signature dish, and I think maybe that's a good thing because there's such diversity. And do you know that fish and chips is no longer the top selling takeaway?
Oh, what is it?
Butter chicken.
Oh,
it's
gosh.
a step backwards.
I know.
Yeah.
Crikey, we took some of my students we do these culinary excursions at the end of term to give them a bit of flavour of the world and so on, and we took them to Cinnamon Kitchen, and the rule was no butter chicken. It's not even Indian, so
pizza. Yeah.
When you say that you remember some food and like a proper English food from your childhood, what was your favourite food or a treat when you were a child?
Again, growing up, you think these things are really amazing and flash. So for our birthdays, we'd always have Cheerios.
Okay.
Little sausage.
Kids' favourite.
Yep. And we'd always have pineapple and cheese on sticks, on toothpicks, and they're always really flash. And we always got to have on our birthday. It was always got to have a flavoured ice cream, not vanilla.
Okay, that's considered fancy, right?
And it's interesting because growing up, I thought those were really flash foods. This is a true story. And as I think I hit my teens and went to the supermarket doing my own stuff and realised that to buy vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream was exactly the same price. I thought it was a cheap version, and Cheerios were cheap as chips, literally. So that was but for us, it was a special thing. I really love macaroni and cheese. I think Mum's in Invercargill at the moment. I hope so. She won't hear this show. Although we're live on the airway, live on the internet. But she didn't like cooking. She was busy. We had a really busy family, and she was always she still is. She didn't like cooking at all. So she did the bare minimum in terms of our staple diet was either sausages, mashed potatoes and peas, or mince, boiled potatoes and peas, or chops and roast potatoes and carrots. So it was really basic, simple stuff.
It's very healthy, isn't it? It's a very healthy diet. Probably gives you quite a good start for the year.
Well, it was really good for me because when I was 13, I remember going to a friend's house and they had this really weird dish. I'd never seen it in my life, and I was like, "What is this?" I was really scared. It was nachos. And I got home and I was like, "What are these nachos?" Mum had no idea what I was talking about. I had no clue whatsoever. And so I went, "I'm going to figure out how to do this." So from about 13 years of age onward, I started to teach myself how to cook. And by about age of 14, 15, I was doing most of the cooking at home because Mum was busy and I didn't really want to eat her food either.
So I've got a story. My mum was well ahead of her time. We were the first family in New Zealand to eat tofu. I'm gonna say that. We were eating tofu in the 70s. It
Oh,
was disgusting.
yeah.
But she also, I just had to quickly Google it. She also came up with this dish which we teased her about it for years. In fact, we probably still do, called Pheasant John. Yeah, have a guess what it is? It's Persian pomegranate chicken. Which like in the 70s, it was like, the heck, I just want chops and sausage.
Yeah.
But yeah, she really exposed us to curries, pheasant John, other something with nuts, some kind of lentil where you would use mince. She used lentils and nuts, something like
Very
that.
Middle Eastern.
So yeah. So good old mum.
Our big, so Mum's big. We were at a dinner one night and we all enjoyed this lovely chicken dish our friends had made, and Mum got the recipe. So for the next 10 years, if there's anything special, she did this roast chicken which had like salt and vinegar chips on top, and you know the reduced cream dip as part of it. It was kind of nice, but it was kind of unusual, and she sort of found that. And the funny thing also, well, not funny, but you know, we've changed a lot as a society, because when I was young, chicken was actually a delicacy. It was quite expensive.
Yes.
But it's flipped the other way now. Like chicken is so cheap. So yeah, the way we eat and how we access it and the value of it is all changed.
I was talking to a nutritionist. Chickens are easy to digest, easier than any other meat. Potentially, maybe because it's not that red. There is not a lot of iron in it. There was a political movement some time ago in America when one of the politicians said, "I will feed the country with the chicken." So the whole idea was to get this delicacy accessible.
Like Colonel Sanders.
I'm not sure. I'm not really great in history. Geography and history is your topic, Warren. I have to rely on you with this. So it's actually quite interesting how it flips around. So the time passed when you were a child and you're eating what mom cooks, and now you can have a choice. What's your favorite cuisine at the moment?
Favorite cuisine, and depends what sort of day of the week it is. I'm really enjoying a good Italian pizza. A really good, again, that simplicity. I think we've moved on from really thinking you've got to load everything up. Like to have a delicious dish, you've got to have as many things in it as possible. So just a really simple margherita pizza is a real, as a go-to for me. That's something
especially if it's a homemade dough. So shout out to our sponsors, Area 41, the best pizza in town.
And I'd take polypasta as well. I mean, it's just again a nice simple.
I've got a question from a student of mine who's listening. She wants to know what you eat when you want to celebrate. Like you've had a great day or a success or something like that. Perhaps when you got elected.
Because drinking, I'm sure.
That's a great question. Honestly, cheese.
Are you
I love a good cheese board. I mean, a decent cheese board with lots of. I really enjoy food that you can share with people. I really enjoy that whole thing when it's sort of a sharing plate or got a cheese board and everyone's kind of, we're in COVID now, so things are a bit different. But a really good cheese and pesto and dip and some really
like a grazing table where a community type of eating, which is great.
Yeah, but celebrate. That would be something I do to celebrate. But I'm trying to think where I might go to celebrate. It's something I couldn't cook at home. That's often the thing. I think if I go out for dinner, which I don't a lot at the moment, but if I do go out for dinner, it's trying to find somewhere that I couldn't do this at home.
Might not want to single one out in New Plymouth because you're the MP for New Plymouth. Favourite restaurant in New Plymouth? Favourite restaurant in Wellington?
So I really enjoy Pole Pizza because of their. I like the concept of it. It's quite different in terms of if those who haven't been, you pick what kind of meatballs you want, or what kind of, or vegan or vegetarian or, seafood. Then you pick your sauce and then you pick your base, whether it be veggies or pasta or whatever. I really enjoy that. Like it's just because you can chop and change and mix it up and give it a go. In Wellington, I don't get out a heap in Wellington. In fact, I've got a little flat above the Green Parrot.
Oh, that's a
cafe, which is a classic political cafe. Yeah. But I've actually never ever been there. But there is a place down the road from me, which is I've totally forgotten its name, but it's a Vietnamese fusion restaurant, and that's kind of got some really nice flavour. I'm vegetarian actually, so it's always sort of trying to find places that aren't meat dependent.
The Green Parrot, Alina, is a classic Kiwi institution. It's been around for a long time.
1926.
There you go.
Wow,
I believe it was the favourite haunt of possibly Muldoon or someone around
Winston Peters.
Winston Peters.
He was always late nights at the Green Parrots Cafe, and I've been past there a few times because obviously I live above it, and often I'll see one or two politicians still hanging out there. But it's infamous for many a late night decision or ruckus happening up there.
Yeah. Where is it? It's not far from Parliament. It's a couple of
It's
streets.
Taranaki and Wakefield Street. So just back from Te Papa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I passed by several times when I was there. So I think it's a perfect time to listen to the second piece of music, which is a Hope by Fat Freddy's Drop. Yeah, it's going well. Can you believe you've been talking for 25 minutes? Food is such an easy topic to talk about, isn't it?
How's it all going? We're in the real guts of this thing now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Tough day.
Yeah, it is. And this is the so I was going to take a couple of days off last week, but it didn't happen because it's Super Saturday, and they just basically said that you've got to pull stops to try and vaccinate, and it's it's a huge.
Would you like to talk about it on air when we're
Happy
on?
to, yeah.
The vax reluctance is such a concern.
Yeah.
It's just going to hit people. I keep reading these stories about people, actual real people who've had COVID and how hideous it can be.
I was talking to someone yesterday who's Filipino, lives here.
Check
She
the
puts
messages.
because
The messages.
the Philippines have been
No, it's
just
okay.
hammered by it. She's got people in her family who died, and then she talked about family was here, and so they'd put something on social media separately, and just the amount of engagement. But this is all experiences we know from our homes. It's about just that. I just don't want to provide. I really don't. And part of that, the bling song I put on was sort of that. That was from my 81 and Springbok tour, and and whole families were having, clashes with each other around apartheid and
Very
around
polarizing.
politics. But I feel like I hope we're not, but are we in a place where there can be a real polarizing of?
We're just so lucky in Taranaki that there is no Delta. And once it hits the region, it will be a completely different story.
Well, there's going to be some people that are going to get really sick, and possibly some people are going to die. Well, I just can't fathom why they had 28.
That's my big push in my job, and with the health board and with our providers who are rolling out the vaccine, how to work together with them just to make sure it's we need to be vaccinating 1,400 Māori a week in Taranaki to make sure that we hit the 90% by December.
Do you know how many we are vaccinating?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but they're confident that we can achieve it. It's a lot of work, but we can. We're living in. I was met with a 94-year-old a couple of years ago. He wanted to catch up because he wanted to talk about some housing ideas he had. It was lovely. We went to his house, and I think his wife's 88, and I said to him, "This is what we're going through now. You're 94 years old. Have you experienced anything like this in your life?" He's been through a lot of things. Well, they've been through a lot of things, and he was really concerned for his grandchildren and great-grandchildren, just the experiences they've had. And he really acknowledged his privilege. So we lived our whole lives in a place where it's relative peace, relative health, relative well-being around the world, well, for the Western world.
I think that's part of the problem. It's just the complacency.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
true.
old enough to remember my wife's grandfather who had polio spent 6 months in a iron lung.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life, he walked away.
Yeah, I've got an elderly friend that's got this huge lump and he's on a stick. He's always there.
And I watched an interesting conference that health professionals from different countries were talking, and the lady, I think she was from Taiwan, she said that they're not vaccinating their elders, and everyone was like, why? And she said, well, what's the point? They're going to die anyway. So we are looking after our elders, and we are looking after the young and the rest. Kind of, it's worth a bit of a recognition, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's why the my body, my choice thing really winds me up. How can you, after all the dialogue that we've had in the comms around COVID, not understand that it's not just your body.
Yeah. Your body's part of the community, part of the village.
Well, all the rights comes with the responsibilities, right? So you can't really have the right of speaking without knowing that it can offend someone with your speech, and all the other rights, rights of education. If you have the right to have a free education, it means that you have to apply it somehow for the society. Rights and responsibilities come close.
I hope that Cabinet can understand that there are people who support them and understand what they're trying to do, that not just all the whack jobs they
Oh, I know, I think they do, you know,
I hope
it's
they do.
a small minority who are very loud.
Yeah, they get a lot of
That's the
noise.
So welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. It is Alina Williams, Warwick Foy, and our wonderful guest with local foodie and MP Glenn Bennett. So I have a question who someone asked me to ask you. How is food in Parliament?
You've got three choices. One, bring your own. Two, go to Copperfields, which is the cafe. Now it's kind of it's think of it as almost like a mess hall with the take your tray down and slop your the smorgasbord. It's kind of a pumped up version of that, which is okay. Or you can actually order it to the menu, but it's limited. It's decent, and I don't eat there a lot.
Where is it? Whereabouts is it?
So just on the first floor of the Beehive. So that's sort of the cafe. They've got they do breakfast, they do eggs Benedict, thankfully.
Of course.
But it's a really simple menu and it's fairly quick. And say at lunch and dinner times, they always have a small. You can just get your tray and go through. I try not to eat there too much, but the second. So you can bring your own. Secondly, you can go to Copperfield's Cafe, or thirdly, you can go to the level 3 of the Beehive, to the infamous or famous Bellamy's.
Oh wow!
Which Logan Brown now is actually Bellamy's by Logan Brown, so they are the ones who run it. Yeah.
The listeners will be wanting to know if we're paying or you're paying.
It's free today. No one paid me.
Oh yes, no. But I've only been I've actually been 4 times to Bellamy's, I think. In my first week, they hosted us there, and then I went to actually I got to have my first experience of politics, where we had a lunch with Peter Beck, the owner of
Helicopters.
Rocket Lab. Talking about the work they're doing, and then I went to a couple other times for other events. But it's they have a very simple menu up there, but that is delicious, and people actually. So as a member of the pub, you can actually go there. So it's something you can actually go and it's a good experience.
You're a politician, so you don't have to answer my questions. I'll ask you again. How much is it? Who pays? Is it subsidised?
No, it's not subsidised.
It's just market rates.
So yeah, I mean, in the Copperfields, it's you'll I think it's $17 for your dinner and $12.50 for lunch. Or there's sort of $15 you can get you can cook to order something. So it's pretty regular prices. And then Bellamy's is definitely what you pay is what you pay down Courtney Place or up Cuba Street.
I guess it's redundant now because Wellington's changed so much. There's so many places all around Parliament. Actually, not quite as many down that end. You have to walk along Langton Quay up towards Cuba Street, but there are plenty of places that you can eat in Wellington. There
is, and hence why again for the listeners, so they know, for those who live out of Wellington, you get a living allowance, and you choose how you do that. I found a nice sort of cheap. Didn't want to spend too much money. Little wee apartment, which is sort of a flat, really, a little like a bed sit. Like I said before, above the Green Parrot, but that's 15 minutes walk to Parliament. But I wanted to be there because you're right there by Courtney Place, and you've got access to all the foodie places and the shops. And so every morning and every night, I walk to Parliament and walk back, and it's a nice, it's nice to actually remove yourself from the end of town.
Have you had a lot of late nights, urgency, and that kind of stuff?
We've only done one night of urgency in my time so far, which when the house goes into urgency, it can basically sit for as long as it needs to. Midnight we finished, but every Tuesday, so 3 days a week, the house sits Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. On a Thursday, it's 2 p.m. till 5 p.m. So they are long days because you have to, and you can't leave at dinner time or go home once you're tired. You actually have to, officially, once the bells actually ring, literally like at school. And when the bells ring, that's when you can actually leave precinct. So it's not till normally 10 o'clock.
So sometimes I'm sorry to admit I do watch Parliament TV.
What's wrong with you?
Sometimes. And I
nothing to
see,
do with your life.
I see all that the big names are gone. So this is probably the Tuesday question time I'm talking about, but they're gone, and there's 3 people in there debating. How does that work? Like, obviously, there's not going to be a vote, so the whips have not had to have everyone in there.
So how it works is that there often is a vote, but there's always a whip from each party. So that's the sort of the person who takes the lead for each caucus, each political party. And so after question time, it is you go into House business. So whether it be law reform around guns or something around health or whatever it is. So you have people debating. We have House duty, so you'll have a time when you actually have to be in the House physically. But if it comes to a vote, because a caucus has always agreed on something together, the whip gives so if they say, party vote's called for, the Speaker will call that, and then the whip will stand up from Labor, say, 65 votes, and National say 33 votes. So even though there's only 4 of us in the chamber or 6 of us in the chamber, it's actually representative. But the thing I did learn is the reason you have to be on precinct the whole time Parliament's sitting, because they always have to ensure there's a quorum and the right amount of people. So if, for any reason, it never happens, but evenly someone can say, ring the bells, the bells get rung, we all have to go into the chamber, and that's when we have to be counted.
Sort of a procedural.
Yeah. So the other one, really briefly, is conscience votes. So I did one conscience vote. I can't remember what it was now, but that's the one time they ring the bells for 7 minutes, and after 7 minutes, that's when they actually have to physically go through the aye and the no doors and actually get physically counted.
Have you, 2 questions. So that's a great reason why you have the Youth MP program, so that young people can learn about. I'm going to ask about that. But do you still have the tunnel under Bowen House? And that's where a lot of offices are for backbench MPs? Well,
interestingly, last year, because of earthquake regulations, that's been closed. So Bowen House is I think it's a 20-storey building, right next to Parliament Office on the opposite side of the road. So famously in the 90s, they built a tunnel with a conveyor belt, you can jump on, and so that's still open and running, but they've actually had to close the building. So they had to scramble last year at the election, or before the election, to find office space for everyone. In about 3 years' time, they're going to reopen it once it's been fixed. But so my office, we always joke it's in the dungeon, it's in the basement of the Parliamentary Library, but they basically had to rejig the whole of the Parliamentary precinct to find places for us all. So what was the basement of the library, where they had all the archives and all the shelves and everything, they had to basically strip that out. And we've actually got a really lovely modern workspace. And when I say basement, I actually do have a little window that's at ground level, but on the lift when you hop in, it does.
You can see people's feet.
Yeah. So it is. And so but I still get to, so when I come into work, often I'll come through, jump off, go through the conveyor belt underneath and up. And it does, because growing up, I was never ambitious to be an MP, but I always followed and was always curious with politics. And so I used to always see, they've changed it now with where the press can go, but you used to often have a press scrum chasing someone down through the tunnel.
Oh, so they're not
allowed to anymore.
For me, being politician, on the scale from 0 to 10, 0 being absolutely horribly, annoyingly boring, and 10 being absolutely amazingly exciting. So for me, a job of politician is 0. Sorry to say that. So on the scale from 0 to 10, how excited are you being a politician?
Well, in any one day it goes from 1 to 10 to 10 and back again. Depends. There's so many different variants and experiences, and some parts of it, and people often say, "Oh, you're enjoying the job," and I often think, I don't know if I enjoy it. There's parts of it that give me real pleasure and real satisfaction, but it is often, I do feel like it is a calling or a vocation that you're in, that there's so many things that you do that are actually like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to do this, or it's such a antiquated old system of operating that sort of you want to kind of fall asleep. But then other parts are really engaging and exciting, and realizing you are actually having an impact.
What's the best about it?
Being in the community, so being able to be out and about and to be a figurehead, and I don't mean that in a, look at me, I'm a MP, but to be someone, I think, like yesterday, a great story, yesterday I was in Waitara and went out to Waitara High School to see some of the work they're doing, and then ended up at Waitara East Primary School. And there's a leadership program that happens every year around the country for primary intermediate students. And I'd hosted a group from Waitara start of this year, they'd been in Parliament, so I met them, hosted them. But anyway, I went to one of the classrooms, and one of the young people came up, Mr. Bennett's here. And I was like, how the heck does that person know me? And they remembered me from Parliament. And then she said, oh, yeah, I haven't seen your pick and save yet. And I was like, oh, what? And then I remembered that I said to them, the great thing about New Zealand, and this is what I like about, being able to be accessible, as I said, if you ever see me in pick and save or at the beach, or make sure you come up and say hello to me, make sure you tell me what's going on, because it's really important. We're really lucky here to have that interaction. So I love the fact this young person remembered me. I was like, oh yes, but I haven't seen your pick and save yet.
I remember I was in my last job, and our offices were in the Venture building, which was on Grove Street. And Jacinda came for a visit there, and she was just chatting to someone who she knew who worked there. And I was just walking past, going to the kitchen. And I thought, only in New Zealand, just stroll past the Prime Minister and go get a coffee, and she just said hi, and I said hi, and
So last week we had it here on Friday, and we're obviously really encouraging vaccinations, and we went to Paratutu Bowling Club, where Toy Orders has a pop-up vaccination clinic, and there was a gentleman there, and he was really, really nervous about getting vaccinated. He'd been putting it off. It was his first shot, and the Prime Minister met him, and he told her he's got a needle phobia, and he's really, really worried. She said, oh, would it help if I came in with you? And he was like, would you? Like, yeah, sure. And she went in with him and sat with him while he got the vaccination. And I just thought, again, how cool are we in a country where the Prime Minister takes his time to do that?
So how is vaccination going? Tell us, to our listeners.
So for us in Taranaki, we were doing fairly well. We're doing really well, but our numbers need to grow. So and I think with yesterday's announcement around the traffic light system, around, hey, when we get to 90%, that's when we really start making some big decisions. We've got a long way to go. So for me, it's really about I've been working really hard in the last few weeks, particularly, to just connect with our communities, with our vaccinators, to make sure how can we actually get into these places. And often where they're hard to reach, to make sure, because once we get people vaccinated, that basically gives us options. And the thing is that I've been talking about is, get vaccinated so you can be with the ones you love, and you can go to places you love.
And as you know, our heart goes to people who work in hospitality, and they're vulnerable.
Oh, yeah.
So please go get vaccinated, because who are vulnerable.
And that's the thing. For me, it is around me and my autonomy. Because I'm born into a family, I'm born into a community, and I was thinking about it recently that we always roll out this whole line of it takes a village to raise a child, and I've been thinking about that in this context and thinking it takes a village to raise a child, but also takes a child to remind us we're part of a village, and our children can't get vaccinated, and our vulnerable can't get vaccinated, and many of our elderly are vulnerable to a pandemic like COVID. So be reminded that we're part of a village. And as much as these things I don't want to do, or things that I want my own autonomy, I give those up because I'm part of a village.
Yeah, and we stop at red traffic lights.
We do.
Seatbelts on. It's part of being society. Can you comment on our lowest? I think we are the lowest in the country still, which is really, really concerning and disappointing. Would you lay some of the blame at the DHB, or would you lay it at VAC's reluctance?
Blame time.
Or would you not? You don't have to comment.
I think it's the truth is, and I know it's been admitted and been quite open about it, we started slow. We weren't as ambitious as other regions, other DHBs. And because of that, and because early on vaccinations, we didn't have as many as we have now. So I think reluctance, because there's a couple of things going on. There's a very small amount of anti-vaxxers, which, that's a tiny, but they're loud. But there's a lot of hesitant people. There's a lot of people, and this is what I'm really hoping, and from last Saturday we had a really good effort, and I'm hoping that'll kind of continue to roll on. People have actually been sitting back and just waiting and watching to see what goes on and see what's happening around their communities. And I think now, and my hope now is that we're going to really push really hard. Like last week, for example, there were people who weren't planning to get vaccinated, were watching, who got their first shot. And I hope that once they get their first shot, their family sees that, their community sees that, they're okay, they're doing well, and then that'll encourage them to get on with it. So yeah, we can put blame, but I'm actually saying I don't care. I just want to think how we can work constructively together now, so we can actually, because we were moving up the scale, we've dropped back down again. I'll make sure we move up so that we can actually open up. We can actually be a community that's living a new normal, but living normal nonetheless.
I also think that we are pretty isolated in Taranaki. We are away from any other centers, and this is probably one of the reasons why we were so kind of complacent about it. Shall we listen to the third song?
I was just going to say something, something else, if you don't mind. I went to the little protest in the park just out of curiosity. I stood back because I am not anti-vax, so I didn't want to be associated with it. But I just wanted to hear what kind of stuff they were saying. And what I heard was a lot of we will stand together stuff and solidarity stuff. But I didn't hear any facts or any science or even any alternative vision apart from not getting vaxxed. So I felt that was I felt a lot of things about that were rather negative. So I left. And as I walked around the lake, I ran into a friend of mine who's a nurse, and I was telling her about it. And she said, I just want to walk over there and stand on that stage and tell them what ICU looks like at base hospital and how we're not going to be able to cope with it when it comes.
So people don't see that, and people, that's my plea. Someone actually said to me last week, said, would one of those people who's anti, would they give up their hospital bed for someone who needs it and is actually, has been vaccinated? And I think that's a real challenge, and we don't want everyone to be in that position. And we're living in, my other thing is generally I'd be like, this vaccine mandate is really unusual, but we're living in really unusual times. We're in a global health crisis, so we have to take drastic action.
I agree.
So we're on to this ending of us talking about vaccination. Joking games.
It's just so interesting talking about this stuff, but I've got to ask you about youth MP because my little Cornelia is wanting to hear your answer. So.
Can you please also check on our page, because my telephone is over there. It's doing live, so if there's any comments or messages about our live.
I'm interested in you. I'd love to hear what went on there. I saw two video clips from the park, and that was it.
Jules says you guys should come to the winery for a wine after the show.
It's one of our listeners and sponsors to another show. And
any other time I would, but my daughter's home alone, my wife's away, so I should help be with her. But, I'll just get a brief answer from you on youth MP, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any other topics you would like to cover? Because this is the time after the third song we're going to do the wrap up, and we already went.
I'm happy I'm in your hands. Can't bring up ears. Did you find it hard listening?
Yeah. I couldn't see the one that really riled me up, but I saw that later on video.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the interview with this American doctor? Some people forced me to see it. I saw it as well, and I had difficulties to see it. But there are some, I can understand how people are looking something, because there is a theory that there are some people who would always say no, originally. And American doctor, did they do a good job in America? Probably not.
They have such a weird health system.
They really do. I think if it was 25 years ago and the internet was new and there was no social media, would we be in the position we're in? We wouldn't.
There's a platform notice, in the light. That's the problem.
Or the little bit of information but if you dig into that little bit of information, it's actually like this experimental drug that's really new. Well, it's been 20 years in the making, and it's been actually because coronavirus has been with us so they've developed these. And then funding,
the mRNA technology,
and funding is always an issue for a new vaccine or drug. But suddenly governments will do whatever you can, we'll pay for it. So all these sort of things.
It's the whole. I did my own research. I'm a researcher, so you actually did.
Are you epidemiologist? Yeah. No, but
I watched a YouTube clip.
That's true. The country I came from, Russia, we had many epidemics in our history. So it was the horrible things, especially during wars and people. So some doctors gave their life to create a vaccine. I think the first vaccine was created in Russia. And it's interesting how vaccine evolved? Well, first of all, it was just a weaker disease. Now they work with antibodies and
because there's no COVID in the Pfizer vaccine.
in the cellular level. And they're very simple, I believe, all those vaccines. How they create the antibodies and the meta. So it is interesting. I think we should study it at school, how the history of pandemics and vaccination.
And you look at how many viruses no longer exist now because of vaccination. Because of there's a whole list of them.
Typhoids, for example, this was a horrible disease, started like a bug. So many other things left people deformed, like polio.
Well, say polio. I think polio now only exists in 2 countries, Iran and somewhere else.
Somewhere in Africa.
And it was the Rotary International. They really got on board and helped to get rid of it. But Iran and this other country refused it.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. We had an amazing talk with our guest, local foodie and MP Glenn Bennett, and it's time to wrap up a little bit. And just 2 words from our sponsor, Area 41 on Brougham Street, the perfect place to get away for coffee, meals, meetings, and events. Area 41 is an Italian restaurant, cafe and bar with a passion for traditional Italian meals with a twist. They offer a variety of breakfast, pizzas, pastas, risottos, Italian mains, and decadent desserts. I think their desserts are the best in town. So they're open for lunch and dinner and breakfast 7 days a week. All their meals can also be ordered a week. This is my Russian accent.
I love it.
I took it away with a good Toastmaster. This is my excuse. Thank you for listening to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. Now we're going to take some selfies and post them on Instagram and Facebook. We're going to be meter apart, so probably wouldn't be very good selfies. Tune into 100.4 FM every Saturday at 4 p.m. Remember, there is a live recording of this interview online on Taranaki Foodies with Area 41 group page on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Meet you next Saturdays at 4 p.m. on Airwaves. Bye-bye, my gourmetarians. Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah, that was such a nice wrap. I had one more question.
I can't believe it. All right, Warwick.